Hello everybody, welcome to day 5 of the holiday card series for 2019. Today we're making a card with 0 stamping and coloring. So we're going to be using the Noel die by Trinity Stamps from their new winter release. And we're also going to be using the Layer Pine Tree stencil, which I think is the star of the show, and I've fallen in love with this stencil. With the die cut, there are 2 different dies that come with it. There's one that's a little bit bubblier, and that can be used as a shadow or a standalone, and then there's the thinner one that can be layered onto the shadow, or you can use it as a standalone as well. So like I said, this stencil is a layering stencil. There's 2 pieces, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to use it. So I'm using some Distress Oxide inks today. I'm using Milled Lavender and Dusty Concord. I'm going for a non-traditional color palette for this particular holiday card. So to get started, you want to use the stencil that has the largest space in it. So that's going to be the base of your pine tree. You want to use your lightest color here. This will allow it to come through once you add your second layer, which you'll see here as I get this second layer on. So this is a laser cut stencil, which is great. It's very detailed, and it's also really simple to line up. And as you can see, I'm not even taping down the stencil. I'm just holding it to the top and the bottom, and it really doesn't move at all. So super easy stencil to use, and I love the layered look. So for the second layer, I'm using the Dusty Concord, and I'm concentrating a lot of the darker color to either side, and I'm keeping a variation in my pressure so that there's some darker patches for the tree and some lighter. Now some of those areas at the top of the stencil are a bit delicate, so I'm doing more of a pat than I am a hard rub or circular motion with my blending buddy brush here. So there's the second layer. Now I'm going to work on the pine tree in the center, and this is why I chose to use Distress Oxide inks for this particular layout. They do sit on top of each other, so that meant that I didn't have to mask those other 2 trees because I knew I would be able to blend out those ones that are supposed to be sitting to the back. So this is where you'll see that really come to life. I'm making sure that the bottom right and left hand sides where this tree will be in the front of the other 2 are darker. And then just kind of blending that out till I feel like I've got a nice blend. And there you go. You can't even tell that I did those 2 first because they've really moved into the background. Now I went ahead and did a second panel. It was actually my first panel that I did earlier in the morning. I wanted to give that Distress Oxide lots of time to dry because I'm going to be adding the Aileens Glitter Snow for my 3rd layer. So this just gives a really pretty snow effect as the 3rd layer to my pine trees here, or what will be Christmas trees for this particular card. So I did go ahead and add some of the glitter paste to just a piece of cardstock. I wasn't sure if the Distress Oxide was still going to transfer, and I didn't want to contaminate my container. It did not transfer at all though, which was great because that meant that my ink was dry. So I'm just going to move this over very carefully. I did not rinse my stencil between this first and second tree, so I'm kind of holding my breath here and taking a risk, but it worked out just fine. So I'm going to add that glitter snow to the second tree, and then I'm going to let this dry for quite a while. I did take my heat gun to it for a little bit, but I also let it air dry for a couple hours. I wanted to make sure it was good and dry so that I didn't smudge that glitter snow when I was doing the 3rd tree here. And because there's a little bit more of raised areas because of that hardened glitter snow, I had to be a little bit more careful with this 3rd tree. It was a little bit more tricky, but still fairly easy. I'm just making sure I've got that everywhere I want it, and my trees are now complete. So I just cut out a piece of lavender cardstock here at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to have that peeking out of the back of my card panel, which I did go ahead and pop up on some fun foam using some double-sided tape to adhere that. There was a tiny bit of warping just because I did use my heat tool a little bit, but the fun foam straightens it out nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the Noel die cut here. This is the shadow piece, and it cuts out the 2 little dots on top of the E as well. So I'm just going to ensure I have that in place. And then I cut the second die out of some sparkle cardstock by Pink and Main. And it's a really pretty purple color. Just fidgeting with that, the little dots there that go over the E. And then I can go ahead and add the rest of my letters. Now you'll notice that top layer does cut out in multiple pieces. So the N is separate, the O is separate, and then the E and the L are attached. But it's super easy to get in place. And I'm just using some liquid glue here to ensure I have a couple of seconds to move this around to where I want it. Now I did cut out some snowflakes using the Winter Friends dies for that stamp set. I cut that out of the glitter cardstock, and I'm just going to arrange 3 of those to the top of the card. I wanted that sparkle paper in the Noel to be somewhere else on the card for continuity's sake. So I'm playing here trying to figure out where I want them to go. Now, with the Winter Friends stamp set, you can actually have stamps that are in those snowflake shapes, but I just went ahead and used the dies on their own to get my little die cut snowflakes. So for a final embellishing touch, I'm going to use some of these glossy dots by Pink and Main. I wanted those to look like there were ornaments on the trees. So I'm just using my craft pick here to pick them up. They're super sticky. I'm going to go ahead and finish the last couple, and that will complete the card for today. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye.